Hey everybody, how you doing? This is the Economic Ninja. We're going to talk about the Federal Reserve having an issue with the Panama Canal going dry. The Federal Reserve is trying to fight inflation, and it is an uphill battle for them, right? But they caused it. They had the excessive money printing. It's all part of the plan. But let's talk about something that's coming up that not a lot of people have understood for a while, and that is freight index, shipping, things like that. It is going to get a lot more expensive if ships are not allowed to use the Panama Canal and have to go extended distances. And we're going to have problems with food, moving food around the country and all kinds of things with time and delays, stuff like that. It says right here, this is out of Q Captain, and it's entitled, "The Fed's Inflation Fight Faces a New Challenge, a Dry Panama Canal." It says the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell keeps careful track of employment levels, wages, consumer prices, and numerous other metrics to see where the U.S. inflation rate may be headed in the next year. He might also want to keep an eye on water levels at Gonton Lake. That's the lake that feeds the locks in the Panama Canal, with the freshwater needed to raise vessels as they pass from the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic. But a severe drought has caused water levels in the lake to drop far below normal. Now think about that. Isn't that insane? You would think at first, not knowing a lot about these locks, that they would be pumped from one area, like the ocean, into the locks. But this is used fresh water from a lake, gravity fed down into the lock to fill it up, and then when they release the water, it just goes out into the ocean, right? They set it up with dams. But because of a historic drought, this is changing things. And if boats cannot pass because they don't have enough water to raise the level of the locks, then the boats are going to be forced to go around different routes, causing delays, causing much higher prices. It says here, it's also unnerving economists and supply chain experts. Just as the world's delivery bottlenecks are easing, Panama's drought and worrisome weather patterns elsewhere threaten to revive some of the chaos of 2021, when a surge in shipping costs and consumer demand resulted in shortage of goods, helping to drive U.S. inflation to a 4-decade high. Now, think about this. We've already went through those in supply chain crisis. Can you imagine if another one happens? With the last one clearly in people's minds, what they would do, a lot of people would panic buy. And that would cause even more of a shortage. They would panic buy, they'd go, "Oh, I've seen this before." They'd race down to Costco, they'd buy their toilet paper, they'd buy all that stuff that normally comes from China, stock it all up, and we would run out of empty shelves. I mean, you think that was fast last time? Think about when people have a working knowledge of something. Usually in economic cycles, recessions happen every 7 to 10 years, and only the elite people understand these cycles. That's what I've been trying to teach in my course, or not my course, but on this channel for 3 years, and show you how these cycles are totally normal and how you can make money from them, right? And how you can stay out of the hurt locker, the pain locker financially when this stuff happens. So my theory is this. People need to realize that when we are in a position that this kind of stuff happens, and it's close in the last, couple of years, because 7 to 10 year recession cycles, people forget what they're like. They don't even remember. But when you're close, just a couple of years ago, it's going to be fresh in people's mind, which means their reaction is going to be stronger than what happened prior, or it's going to be faster, right? It says the drought also risks undermining the Fed's battle to get the inflation rate closer to its 2% target, says Jonathan Austri, an economics professor at Georgetown University and former International Monetary Fund official. The U.S. inflation is gradually slowing according to the Fed's preferred gauge, yet at 4.7%. Hey, put down in the comment section, do you really think the Fed's inflation rate is really at 4%, 4.7%? I think it's much, much higher. Remains at a level that is very uncomfortable for central banks, Austri said. And the last thing they need is to tune out unfavorable news about shipping, as they did in 2021, which he called borderline malpractice. The Panama Canal Authority is forecasting a July 31st water level of 78.2 feet, beating the previous all-time low of 78.3 feet reached in May of 2016, and far below the 5-year average of 84.9 feet in July. Making matters worse, an El Niño system is building in the western Pacific Ocean and is expected to upset normal weather patterns by the end of this year. While this can cause heavy rainfall in some regions, in Panama it typically means severe drought and higher than normal temperatures. Eric Cordoba, the head of the canal's water department in an interview said El Nino could mean a longer dry season for Panama in 2024, which would also affect water levels. Think about this. We are literally seeing, because of El Nino right now, we are seeing weather move around the globe in a different way, where like California had a historic drought for so long and just got pounded and pounded with water. As a matter of fact, in June, we're seeing June gloom. We're seeing like moisture in the air, which is unheard of for like the last 15 years. Well, bringing that up to our area is also taking it away from other areas, right? There's only so much weather in the world, and as it shifts around, we have these changes. So we have crazy flooding going on in Texas right now. We've got flooding in California, actually, even though it's not raining. The ice melt is causing flooding. But in Panama, that is going to affect, even though you're like, well, it doesn't affect us, we're not in a drought. It can if they can't get those ships through the Panama Canal. Now it says the drought is already is making it more expensive to move goods. The Canal Authority has steadily reduced draft levels. How low a vessel can sit in the water since February. To comply with lower drafts, larger ships must lighten their loads by taking fewer containers overall, or by dividing the same amount of cargo among more containers. Either way, the result is higher price tags for consumer and industrial goods that move through the canal. Some ocean carriers also began charging per box container fees on June 1st in a response to the draft limits. So this is already starting, and this is absolutely insane. This is only going to make the inflation problem worse. Cargo rates will rise on other routes too if low water levels force shippers to find alternatives, especially if the peak shipping months of August and September, again, remember, they're getting ready then for their Christmas season. When retailers build inventory for the holiday shopping season is stronger than expected. One bright spot is that maritime shipping costs and demand levels have declined sharply from last year. Okay, that's great and all, but think about this. Even though the shipping costs have dropped, inflation has raged in all kinds of things like food and energy. So if this corrects and now adds to the inflation of food and energy, it's going to make it even worse than when we were there during the last shipping craze, okay? Because back then, energy and food weren't as high as they were now, okay? So it actually makes it much, much worse. And that's why it's important to follow these stories. And then, again, if companies start getting wind of this, Walmart, Target, and big box stores, retailers, and go, you know what? We're gonna not wait until August, September to start building inventory. We'll start building inventory now because we're gonna save on shipping if we're bringing in like half containers, but we can bring in a full container because they're starting to think, oh, what if we start to project that they're gonna have higher shipping rates then? We can't get these products to our shelves with higher shipping rates because we're gonna have to ask more. We can't give those great Black Friday deals, and then we'll be in real trouble. So think about it that way. If companies start realizing what's going on with the shipping rates, that they're going to start tipping up again, they're going to start buying massively, okay? And it's going to cause all kinds of issues, especially with storage. While the Panama Canal has struggled with water shortages before the 2016 expansion, that allowed giant container vessels called Neo-Panamax ships to pass through. This year's drought started earlier and is projected to move more severe than previous ones. Look, I'm going to end it there because I think this is enough to digest, but the facts there are that a drought in Panama can cause not only a shipping crisis with supply chain crisis because of delays, but also much higher prices. So keep on the lookout for that. Guys, thank you so much for sharing these videos and hitting the thumbs up. The Economic Ninja is out.